What if I told you that Oscar Piastri's accident in his own home race wasn't really a simple mistake, but the first sign of something McLaren didn't expect to discover in its car this season? For McLaren, the weekend also had a special meaning. Oscar Piastri ran at home. The Australian driver not only represented the team's emerging talent, but had also become one of the most promising names of the new generation of Formula One. Since his arrival at the team, he had shown surprising speed and maturity, quickly establishing himself as a key piece within the McLaren project. Racing in Melbourne in front of his home crowd represented a very important moment in his career, and the expectations were enormous. The atmosphere in Albert Park reflected precisely that illusion. The stands were full, media attention was focused on the local driver, and many fans dreamed of seeing Piastri fighting for podium positions in his home race. Furthermore, the performance shown during the weekend reinforced that hope. The McLaren looked competitive, the pace was there, and the starting position put the Australian in a very promising situation for the race. But Formula One has a unique ability to transform a promising weekend into a completely unexpected situation in a matter of seconds. Before the race even officially started, everything changed. During the reconnaissance lap to the grid, when the drivers prepare the car for the start and try to generate temperature in the tires, Piastri's McLaren suffered a moment of loss of control that no one anticipated. At the exit of turn 4 of the circuit, the car hit the curb and, almost instantly, the car destabilized violently. The driver barely had time to react before the car spun and ended up hitting the barriers. The blow was strong. The right front suspension was completely destroyed along with the wheel, leaving the car unusable. The race for Piastri was over before it even began. For Australian fans, it was a devastating moment. The local driver, who started from a competitive position and had a real chance of putting in a great performance, was left out of the Grand Prix in front of his own fans without even being able to start. At that moment, everything seemed to indicate that it was simply one of those incidents that occur when the tires are not yet at the proper temperature and the grip on the asphalt is very limited. Formation laps have always been delicate moments, and it is not unusual to see drivers dealing with nervous cars and low grip conditions. From the outside, the accident could be interpreted as an unfortunate combination of cold tires, aggressive curbs, and a small miscalculation. However, inside the McLaren garage, the story was far from over. When the team began reviewing the data after the race, something appeared that didn't fit that simple explanation. The engineers analyzed the complete telemetry of the car, the images from the onboard cameras, and the behavior of the car's hybrid system at that exact moment of the incident. That's when they discovered an unexpected detail. Just before the car lost control, the electrical system had released a considerable power spike. That increase in electrical energy generated a sudden increase in torque at the rear axle of the car. Under normal conditions, this type of deployment is part of the normal operation of the hybrid system, designed to maximize the efficiency and performance of the car. But at that specific moment, the car was in a very delicate situation. Cold tires, low grip, and the impact of the curb during full acceleration. The combination of all these factors caused an instant loss of traction. The car began to turn abruptly, leaving the driver practically no room to react. What initially seemed like a conventional accident began to reveal a much more complex technical background. For McLaren engineers, this finding generated enormous concern. It was not simply a question of understanding why the accident had occurred, but of determining whether this behavior of the system could be repeated in other similar circumstances. Modern Formula One increasingly relies on the interaction between the combustion engine and the electrical system, and precise control of the torque reaching the rear wheels is a critical element in maintaining the stability of the car. Most disturbing to the team was that this exact combination of factors had not appeared in previous tests or simulations. This meant that the car's behavior under certain real-world track conditions could be more unpredictable than they had anticipated. So, as the paddock left Melbourne and the season was just beginning to take shape, McLaren was deeply analyzing every bit of data related to the incident. The goal was not only to understand what happened to Piastri, but also to ensure that the car did not present that type of unexpected reaction again in low-grip situations. Because in Formula One, every technical detail discovered at the beginning of the championship can become a key piece for the rest of the season. And what McLaren had found after the accident in Australia could end up influencing much more than it seemed at the time. Meanwhile, the calendar continued to advance and the championship began to enter its next phase. With the first conclusions still being analyzed and with the engineers working intensely to understand all the factors of the incident, the team began to look towards the next great challenge that was approaching on the Formula One calendar: the trip to the desert and the beginning of a stage of the championship that always tests both the reliability and the technical management of the cars, just when the paddock began to prepare everything for the weeks that would lead to the Bahrain Grand Prix. As the paddock left Melbourne and the championship began to take its usual pace, inside McLaren the atmosphere was very different from what had been imagined before the first race of the year. Oscar Piastri's accident had left more questions than answers, and although the official classification of the incident had not detected an obvious mechanical failure, the team's internal data told a much more complex story. The telemetry review continued in depth, and each new layer of analysis began to show more clearly that the accident had not been simply an isolated loss of control. The engineers began to reconstruct second by second what had happened during that reconnaissance lap in Albert Park. They analyzed the power delivery, the behavior of the differential, the energy map of the hybrid system, and the interaction between the electric motor and the grip available at that moment. It was then that they definitively confirmed something that had appeared as an initial suspicion. The car's system had released a peak of electrical power just as the car passed the curb of turn 4, generating an abrupt increase in torque on the rear wheels. That detail was crucial because modern Formula One increasingly depends on the precise management of electrical energy. With current hybrid systems, power does not reach the wheels in a linear manner as it did in previous generations. The deployment of electrical energy can produce very aggressive increases in torque if it coincides with certain acceleration phases, and in low grip conditions that increase can transform a perfectly stable car into an extremely difficult machine to control. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella explained internally that the accident had been caused by an extremely particular coincidence of factors. The tires were not yet warm enough, causing a sudden onset of wheel spin. Passing over the curb generated vibrations that momentarily altered the stability of the car. And just at that moment the system released additional electrical energy during a gear change, suddenly increasing the torque reaching the rear axle. In other words, the car experienced a burst of power just when it had the lowest possible level of grip. This discovery sparked immediate debate within the team. If that behavior was possible under certain conditions, then the control of electrical deployment had to be reviewed much more carefully. Engineers began studying new configurations to smooth power delivery in phases of low grip, especially during formation laps or moments before the start. But the analysis also began to go beyond McLaren. Inside the paddock, other incidents over the weekend began to be seen in a new light. Some drivers had experienced unexpected loss of control during Grand Prix sessions, and although each case had its own circumstances, the pattern was beginning to generate conversations in the garages. The growing importance of the electrical component in hybrid systems was changing the way cars responded in certain situations, and some engineers were beginning to wonder if the behavior of the electric torque could be generating more aggressive reactions than expected. However, the accident in Australia had introduced an unexpected variable into the development of the car. The engineers knew that in Formula One any seemingly small detail can make a huge difference throughout the season. Unexpected hybrid system behavior could become a risk if not fully understood. For that reason, during the days after the Grand Prix, McLaren focused much of its technical work on analyzing the car's energy maps. Simulations were reviewed, different electrical deployment configurations were studied, and ways were sought to ensure that the system did not release torque spikes at critical times of low adhesion. This type of work is common at the beginning of each season. Teams are still discovering how their cars really perform under race conditions, and each event provides new data that can influence car development for the rest of the year. But in this case, the analysis had a particularly important component, preventing a situation like the one in Melbourne from happening again. As the days passed, the team began to gain confidence in their understanding of the incident. The observed behavior appeared to depend on a very specific coincidence of factors, significantly reducing the likelihood of it occurring again under normal circumstances. Even so, McLaren decided to adjust certain system parameters to ensure a more progressive power delivery in phases of low tire temperatures. And while all this technical work was taking place inside the factory and in the team simulation centers, the Formula One calendar continued to advance. The season was just beginning, and the championship was preparing to enter a key stage. The teams were already beginning to look towards one of the most demanding circuits at the beginning of the year, the Sakir Desert. The Bahrain Grand Prix not only represents a technical challenge for the cars, but also a very important test to understand the true balance of forces between the teams. After the unexpected episode experienced in Melbourne, the team reached this stage of the championship with two very clear objectives. The first was to confirm that the adjustments made to the car's energy system had eliminated any possibility of repeating behavior such as that which caused the Piastri accident. The second, and perhaps the most important, was to demonstrate that the performance shown in the simulations and in the first races really reflected the potential of the car. What initially seemed like a simple incident on a reconnaissance lap ended up revealing something much more interesting to the team's engineers. An extremely specific combination of factors that could cause unpredictable behavior in the car's electrical power delivery. The telemetry analysis showed how an energy peak from the hybrid system coincided with cold tires and passing over a curb, generating a loss of traction that left the driver with no room for reaction. Far from becoming a structural problem for the team, this discovery became a valuable technical lesson at the perfect moment in the championship. Because if something characterizes the great Formula One teams, it is precisely their ability to convert problems into useful information to improve the car. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.